In Buddhism, we talk about freedom, liberation, release. What in Pali is described in one word, Nibbāna. In Sanskrit, it's Nirvana. Release, liberation, freedom. You see this countless times throughout the teachings of Lord Buddha. But it's not the only place where we find this aspiration or longing or desire or dream that people have. You see it also in some other religions. You also see it in therapy, in recovery centers, in people's hearts. Everybody talks about freedom. Oh, I want to be free. When a person's understanding of life is growing deeper and becoming more substantial for oneself, to remove oneself from the mud, the sludge of one's own ignorance and habitual patterns, they start to see that they are not interested that much or as much in what we see as an external version or external appearance of what freedom might look like. In other words, what I'm trying to say is freedom is experienced within oneself. Of course, the external helps. If you're in a toxic relationship, if you are in an unsafe situation, surrounded by threatening conditions, persecution, imprisonment, all those things, of course, gaining freedom from such conditions is a must. But there is a far more powerful reality when we talk about freedom, release, liberation, as it concerns Lord Buddha's dispensations, this sasana, Lord Buddha's teachings. And what I mean by that is we gain freedom not from someone else. The earlier example of such as the external imposing situations, conditions of feeling threatened or being threatened, persecuted, etc., those are outside. The world currently is in that state. You can't do the things that you could do without being told you cannot. And these are not like you're breaking virtue principles or things. No, it's the opposite. Everything you need to, you want to do, or things that, the basic, as they say, quote-unquote, freedoms have been and are continuing to be stripped away from us. That's external. We're becoming more and more under the control of a bigger system, of a one-world government, of a one-world system. And that is undeniable. That's happening. That has been happening. We've been like being, corralled as a world population into a bottleneck. I don't know what that will turn into, but that is against the law of nature. So with that's not what the object of wanting to speak about freedom is today. Freedom or liberation or release will never come falling from the sky into your lap. Nibbāna is not something that will happen to you without you doing your work. Work does not mean rites and rituals. Please get this through your head. No amount of chanting, no amount of bowing, going through the process of rites and rituals, how you move this, how you turn your hand, how you offer flowers, how you light incense, how many times, in what way you offer something to a bhikkhu, to a teacher, the manner in which you sit, those are external paraphernalia, if you will. What really deserves your attention, 100% attention, is the state of your mind when you're doing those things. That's why Lord Buddha says in the Dhammapada, not to see the unessential as essential, but to see the essential as essential, and the unessential as truly unessential. What we're living through is the majority of people today, majority, is looking upon the unessential as essential. They consider the Dhamma to be no more than those bowings and respecting this monk, that teacher, this teacher, because of what they heard, because how many followers, because, etc. Rites and rituals, rites and traditionalistic, and oftentimes it's even ethnically painted. From this group, that group, etc. These have nothing to do with liberation. These have nothing to do with the practice. Nothing, ultimately. So I was saying, Nibbāna is not something that falls into your lap. Why? We must first understand as to what the word really means, what the experience could mean, could be for us. This experience of liberation, freedom. Freedom from what? From your own attachments. Attachments to what? Your thoughts. Your thoughts. Your habits. Where are your thoughts dragging you right now? When you're listening to this, what are your thoughts? What's the lingering? What is the background humming noise in your mind? Oh, okay, when this is done, I'm going to do this. Or the intruding thoughts or feelings, as if somebody's using like a hook cane and just dragging your neck to the next moment, to the next thing that I'm going to do. Or, along with that comes a series of feelings. Guess what? Attachment to feelings. What kind of feelings? Including the negative one, by the way. Oftentimes, with many people, it is the negative feeling that is more seductive, that has the more glue to it. And our fingers are very sticky, so they're attached to those feelings. It's like that chewing gum that you're trying to get rid of and it's stuck to your finger, and you throw it and you think you got rid of it, and guess what? It's on the other finger now, or on your clothes. It does not want to relinquish. Well, it's not the it that is not trying to relinquish. It is your dedication to really wanting to get rid of the attachment or not, because the person has told themselves that without the attachment to that thought, to that feeling, to that habitual way of thinking and being, This is who I am. This is the culmination. This is the sum of my life. This is my past. These are my traumas, etc. This is how I do things. My likes and dislikes. And this is the combination of those is what Lord Buddha calls moha, ignorance. In fact, I don't like to call moha ignorance anymore. I'd like to call it stupidity or foolishness. It brings it more to life. You know, ignorance can be very passive. It's like you're in the passenger seat. You don't have much control over, hey, it's happening. I was born like that type of a thing. But moha requires more investment from your part, involvement from your part. You need to stick to it for moha to sustain itself. Because you are coming across sources of wisdom, but you are neglecting to stick to those. Why? Because the attachment is too strong. To go and drop yourself into the well, the sticky, muddy, stagnant quicksand full of mud in that well of ignorance or foolishness, stupidity, willful stupidity, which indicates that there must be some level of mental functioning there to choose to stay there. And that's what many meditators struggle with. They, at the end of the day, have to choose to let go of sati, have to choose to let go of this virtuous practice. Let's say maintaining this rule of precept, this precept to sustain and cultivate a cleaner version of themselves, to build, to carve out a virtuous character, a personality for themselves. So the person has to willfully let go of that promise they might have made to themselves, even in that same morning perhaps. So what am I saying? Attachment again. So the person must be attached to the way they expect things to be, meaning, this is all that I'm going to be. Do you see what I'm trying to say? This is all that I'm going to amount to. Thinking is what Lord Buddha also said, asmimana. This is who I am. Meanwhile, you go ahead and start thinking, oh yes, if I do this, I'm going to go to a retreat, oh, I'm going to read this book, I'm going to attend this talk, and I love this teacher, that teacher, I love these suttas, these discourses, oh, these are inspiring. Okay, they are just fuel. But a car can be full of fuel and still not budge, not move, so long as the ignition, as the start button, is not turned on. And it takes a certain level of attachment, of willful, stubborn, pig-headed stubbornness, foolishness, to say, no, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to stay at, this is only happening in the mind of the person. So my suggestion here is for you to look at these attachments. You can start from the grosser to this more subtle, because this is something that you've been with for eons, lifetimes, not just this life. And you know how long this life has been so far, even if it's only been 10 years or 20 years. There are these attachments that we are releasing ourselves from. Nibbāna is a release, is a liberation from these attachments of yours. Yours, because Nibbāna is also your Nibbāna when it occurs. Yours. Lord Buddha never gives anybody Nibbāna. None of the Arahants attained liberation because somebody gave it to them. That's foolishness. So observe your attachments, even if it's a thought, an inclination. When you hear something, what is the first mental reaction that's taking place within you towards that thing? Good or bad? Or neutral? When you're about to respond verbally to something, to someone, is it a replay of what it's like the go-to move on your part? In these circumstances, in these situations, this is my natural, quote-unquote, response to things. Well, guess what that also is saying? Your cup is full. You're attached to that thing because you're not allowing yourself to have the opening for the truth of this present moment to take place within you, which is what the Arahant lives in constantly. They have nothing to drag from yesterday, from the previous moment. That's why they're so fresh. They don't drag anything behind them. Nothing. Except these things we call the 5 aggregates, the body that they have to have, the thinking they have to have, although it's completely free, fresh. They have no sticky fingers, like I was saying with most of us. So freedom is never something that comes to you. When you reach a certain point, suddenly everything is going to be like the clouds move and hallelujah, like the rainbow colors all of a sudden. Nothing was happening up until that moment, and there we go. Nibbāna takes place. There is never going to be that. That is not Nibbāna. That is not liberation or release that we talk about in this Dhamma and discipline. The release and the liberation takes place every time you drop that attachment and you start seeing what Lord Buddha meant by release, by the state of contentment, santuti, that state of joy, that lovely feeling of being free. What? Free. Released. At that moment, those moments whenever you're letting go of these attachments, you are tasting a bit of that Nibbāna now. Not at a later date, at an XYZ point in the future. That might or might not come, in fact, never come between you and me. So long as you are not tasting the release now. That's why I laugh at these rites and ritual practicing people. They've completely missed the boat. They think the Dhamma is that. That's not the Dhamma. Oh, what month is it today? Oh, we should do this. Oh, we should chant this. Oh, we should hold the incense sticks like this. Oh, we should do that. Or we should do... These are nonsensical things that came along because people gathered together. I mean, I've talked about this countless times. Rites and rituals, pujas, will never, ever, ever get anybody even this close to Nibbāna. But it's great for lazy people. It's great for us to be, to still stay in that deep, deep quicksand full of disgusting habits type of a well. And we're not alone, because you look around, everybody's doing it. Guess what? That makes you, well, at least we have company. And that's how we continue. That's what relationships have turned into in people. And that's why Lord Buddha says, if you cannot find anybody of a superior level of understanding than you, wiser than you meaning, or at least of the same level of understanding and appreciating life and seeing what's happening truly. If you can't find anyone, then walk alone. How many people are you aware of who are courageously unafraid to walk alone? despite all the chaos, all the craziness that's happening in their lives, and now for at least 3 years, at least, in the world. There are very few. And many people come and say, Bhante, I would like to be a monastic, I'd like to be a monk or a nun. Okay, if you've decided, that's your choice, of course, but what are you truly seeking? Guess what? A different type of companions. Thinking that by becoming a monk or a nun or joining a certain order, a community, that is going to get rid of the unwise companionship. People are people. Like my parents used to say, run away from the rain only to get caught in the hailstorm. You can change robes, you can change outfits, you can change your look. But so long as you don't change your heart, how you think, how you relate to what is happening to you, nothing's going to change. You're not just going to start new rites and rituals. Earlier, your rites and rituals were a 9-to-5 job. Now it's getting up early in the morning and chanting a few hours, maybe meditating a little bit, and then doing things ritualistically, and then building this and doing that, and then look at each other and say, wow, we are on the right path. No, you're not. Sorry to bust your bubbles, but you're not. So long as you're not challenging the status quo of your own willful ignorance and foolishness, nothing's going to change on its own. It's like going to the store. You're living in a dirty house, unclean or messy house, and you decide to go ahead and clean it up. But then you look and you don't have any detergents and cleaning utensils and things like that, mops, etc. You go to the store and you buy all this. You buy this, that, cleaning things, and then you put them in the middle of your living room, and then you go and sit in your corner in that pile of dirty socks and things, and then you say, okay, we're good. We're good. I see that to be very similar. And another life is wasted. We release ourselves from our own attachment to our likes, dislikes, to ignorance. Because we don't like to stay with the object of meditation, with awareness. We don't like to do that. It takes effort. Why? Because the effort we had already subscribed. We had already kind of designated that effort to be going to that very lovely activity which we call holding on to this idea of who I am. My likes and dislikes, meaning attachment to my thoughts, my feelings, instead of asking, what is that feeling? Why am I looking forward to run after this pleasurable experience? Is that what it was? Oh, okay. Stopping for a millisecond to ask that question means you are actually starting to cut those chains that bind you, that keep you a prisoner. So Nibbāna is the sequential, step by step, breaking away of these chains. And you're the only one that can do this by releasing yourself from these attachments.